Master Grade Build Strike Gundam. Hey, what's up again everybody? It's Robert184, 2Rs2Bs, Gundam.tk, and Iori has finally got the Master Grade Build Strike Gundam all put together, so let's see exactly what's in store in terms of his imagination and what he brought to life in plastic form. With the help of the manual, those empty plates are going to turn into the body parts you see here, some of which are going to be looking awfully familiar. The backpack, though, is definitely going to be setting itself apart. You do have a base to get it up in the air, and lots of small baggable accessories, which include the main armaments, like the beam gun, the beam rifle add-on, and of course, the big beam cannon. You're also going to have the shield, and if you want to go and swap that booster onto all sorts of different Gundam's backpacks, you've got the option parts, a couple different options to go up aerial, beam sabers, a teeny tiny Kiriya you should throw out, Iori, and I hope you like Four Fingers, solid and bagged separate. For a detailed look at all the parts, don't forget to check out my review of the Master Grade Strike version remaster, but now let's go focus on the differences, with one of the most noticeable ones being that instead of being gray and sort of dull for the regular Strike's knees, they're going to be colorful blue now. You've also got some different white piecing here on the top, which is going to be exposing different amounts of gray. So how does it look when you go for the bend? Still looking great, actually, as you can see it fold in and out very nicely. But somewhat surprisingly, down here the ankles are also going to be completely different. The front is going to be exposing a lot more gray. That would be a lot more open on the regular Strike. Some extra little striping down there, all provided with outlining, done by Bandai for you. And on the back there's some nice cutout slits, but the inner frame, identical. The waist section from the front is going to be looking exactly the same. The front skirts are going to be exposing some gray there, the nice blue piece, which is not a seal as you'd expect with a Master Grade. And the inside gimmicks are going to be exactly the same, as the hips can go up and down, but it's going to be the side skirts. The RM, I had a little bit of trouble with his side skirts. These ones are going to be a lot simpler and more colorful to boot, as you've got this red part down here, which is going to slide on. You've also got some gray exposed there, and you've also got the ability to put on the beam sabers and rotate those around with some nice gray lining in there. This is going to be looking pretty good, and you still have all the regular RM bonuses in the back. Iori must have got lazy the day that it came to modifying the chest, though. Identical. But if the blue on the knees and the red tips on the side skirts don't do it for you, how about these shoulders? Well, for me, I think they're looking pretty sharp up here. You are going to have this big chunk of red there, which is going to be exposing some gray, and again, these little cutout perforations, looking great at exposing inner frame underneath. The yellow parts up there are actually plastic, so they're not going to have to worry about seals as you go put them on. And you can see that this part is going to somewhat interestingly fold in and still be exposing some gray up at the top, but it's not going to fold out the way that we've seen a lot of these things in the past. Overall, though, the Noir Strike Freedom influence looking sharp. And though the biceps are the same, the forearms are going to be interesting with this cool looking pattern here, exposed in gray. Again, some lining options there. Inside and out, some of varying different levels in terms of how deep they are. So make sure you get your marker in, or your ink if you do it up properly. Look at these little gray slits, though, that are again going to be exposed in this nice little touch of color in terms of the blue. Going to look good when he's got a beam saber in hand, slicing at you in pink. Now on to the armaments. As you've got the beam gun here, you can see that I went in with a little bit of black there on the middle. This part here is actually going to push back in, and that's going to come into play for the transformation. Simple, and the kind of thing that you might use once or twice for posing. But if you take the barrel and push it back, you can see it's going to be sliding out here in the back, and then you're going to get something that's going to be looking a lot more familiar and beam rifle-ish. Still pretty dull, though, overall in the gray, but there is a fair amount of details carved right into it for you. But to go big cannon, you're going to take this white part here, slide this all the way back, and then it's going to have some room to go up top, and then it's time to get the gun out again, which the cannon folds around quite well at the back there, and then you push it back in, seal it up. You've got a second handle here if you want to bring the two hands forward, but the fact that they differentiated the color at least here is going to be a big plus. Lots of lining options. Again, I went thin, but the green seals are going to be looking pretty good top and bottom, 6 of them. Going to set it apart visually, although the barrel, not all that exciting, but what do you expect when you're looking down a cannon? But overall, it's the kind of thing that may get used fairly often compared to the bland gray. We've seen it before, but at least generally it would have some yellow or some green seals on there. But this one is going to help him stand out. The shield was one of the biggest disappointments for me in the high grade, but how about this? MG doing it right. Again, gray exposed all over the place on the inside. I went with a little bit of brown lining here on the red as I usually do. And the cannon down at the bottom is going to be looking good. You've got the yellow details there with some more color apps, and when you flip it around, you're still going to be seeing all of the main colors, which is cool, and you can see that this will plug into the back of the elbow and should fit pretty solid. And for gimmicks, you can open up this yellow part to make it look a little bit more claw-like and menacing. But even more practical is this nice little touch that you can take the beam rifle here when it's not on the gun, slide this part forward, and it's going to clip onto this side, and then on the back of the elbow. So yeah, you're going to have some weight, but hopefully the arm's going to be able to hold it on. You've got this little slide part here, which is going to attach on, and this is actually going to slide down pretty deep, so it's the kind of thing where he's actually able to carry all three weapons into battle, and then actually use them properly. But then it's time to forget all about the Ale Striker pack, as it's build boost time. Instead, the high grade, unimpressive, but the master grade, at least it's got all the right colors in all the right places. It's not necessarily going to stand out all that much, but it is going to be looking pretty cool down here. You can see that it's got landing gear that's going to come out of the cockpit hatch there. Nice and good. Here you can see that he's got a million moving parts that are going to be moving the cannons forward. They are going to serve as something that's looking a little wonky in terms of landing gear on the back. But otherwise, the nice little details like these red pieces here, the big white chunks in the front, and the yellow pieces on the back. The only thing that it's really missing is just to have a cockpit that's going to be looking a little bit more cool. But otherwise, the red and the gray for the barrels, this guy's definitely looking MG-ish. And remember that he's got a lot of play options. But first, here's a closer look at the top and the bottom with the guns and attachment point. It's also going to come with its own attachment point, which is easy to plug in, and then you can get them up on the base, which of course can still be used for the Gundam itself. And this is going to make it look a lot more like an actual jet. Or so you might think. Awfully flat there. And one thing that's a little bit concerning, so far no weight issues, but there's just a lot of moving parts on those cannons. Hopefully that's going to work well when you put them around the hips and you can actually hold on to the red handles that are nicely included. But for this, they just come across as being a little bit spindly, and perhaps sitting on the ground in the tucked under position is just going to fill you with a little bit more confidence. They also don't have to be all the way forward, as you've got some variations where you can bring them and tuck them back in. But in terms of the transformation, well, it's time to take the cockpit, as it were, fold that down. It's going to protest just a little bit, and then you can swing these cannons back underneath, and you can see where this is going. As it's time to take these thrusters, which are looking pretty sharp there with the gray inside the white, you bring this forward and then you put this one up. You can bring this down and you can see that this one is going to be the only one that's going to move. These ones are solid, and you've got some various angles that you can put it at to make it look a maximum freedom-y. So what do you think? How does it stack up compared to other Striker or Freedom or Strike Freedom backpacks? Well, one aspect I really like is that these parts, they do move well in here, and so far they seem to stay half locked in, but then you can swing these around. You're going to have lots of range of movement because of their flexibility here. Swing these parts up. It's sort of interesting that they're not closed in like most weapon grips are. Sort of going to make it easier and stand out even more, but the fact they've got the red on the blue on the gray looks like a lot of fun F91 style. Ultimately, though, it's the head that's one of my favorite parts of this. If you've ever seen the head collections or anything SD and beyond, you know that the head is really going to set the Gundams apart, and it's always sort of fun. The old posters for Gundam vs. Gundam, what was it, Next and Next Plus? Anyway, they'd always just show off the heads, and it's fun to look at them and say, how many can you recognize? Well, they all should stand out, and this one does. The Odyssey set himself apart. The top is going to be totally different and very rounded there. The red jewel is going to be unique, sitting on top of white, and the old white is going to be replaced by all yellow here. The regular Strike had some yellow, but this one, it's going to go across all four. The fact that he's got these big Vulcans protruding on either side of the head is going to definitely make him stand out, as is the gray details on the front, and the slits are going to be inserted for you. So right out of the box, this head is going to stand out, and I'm glad that they at least differentiated between the shoulders, the knees, and this. He is going to be looking pretty different, I think. Overall, putting this kit together did not feel all that repetitive because they are going to be giving you enough changes. It's nice to see some surprises like the ankles, the knees looking good, the waist section, well, that's boring. But otherwise, the side skirts look better, and they should be even better than in terms of practicality than the RM Strike. The shoulders are looking sharp, and that unique head mold is looking great. And as for this, Well, I think it looks really good because of the lack of reliance on seals there. The white is going to be good. The little yellow and red details there on top of fair bits of gray, it's going to be okay. It's just I'm not quite sure if they got the angles just quite right in terms of making this look like a fearsome beast. But hey, right now it's just a pile of parts. Stick around to see it turned into an MS and all the play features. Thanks for watching, everybody. See ya. You know, you can give me all the attachment parts you want, but this backpack does not leave my body, well, until I become the divider.